So yeah, I guess before we start, let's just go ahead and thank Justin Manga here at the library and his staff for letting us use the place. And shit, thanks for coming out, man.
Hey, no problem, man. I haven't been to the library in a while, so
Yeah, you still got
thank you
your card.
for the invitation. Now I get to visit the library again.
All right, so man, first question before we start, and then we'll do the introduction is. Could it be possible that we already went through the COVID like in January, early February? Is there any possibility? Because I'm like, it's just weird that we haven't had any cases yet.
Yeah, it's you're hitting it right on the spot, huh? But is it possible that we've had COVID back in January? I
And
think
just recognize it as just regular flu and stuff.
it is possible. Because if we look at what happened in China, right, they started reporting some kind of sickness involving the respiratory system. We're looking at late November, early December time frame. They really didn't identify that as this new virus until I think latter part of December, beginning January. And at that time, traveling was still happening,
Right.
things like that. We have a lot of Chinese people that are living here, who are part of the community with their businesses, and they go back and forth. They order their stuff from China and different parts of the Asian countries. So it is possible. However, if we look at what we're seeing right now with the data, if it is true that the COVID-19 entered our waters much, a lot earlier, we would have seen some spike in the numbers of people at the hospital, maybe even a few deaths here and there of unexplained pneumonia or acute respiratory illnesses. And we should have been testing some of these people that we sent the samples of positive, at least one or two. Because we're not seeing that, those are reasons to make me believe that it's probably still not here yet. Or maybe we have not tested enough people to say that's here.
Right.
But it's hard to say. All this stuff is new, like what they say on the news. It's a rapidly developing situation, right? And I think the whole world, the whole scientific community, all the epis and virologists and laboratorians are still trying to gather up the data to really understand how this virus really spreads, because it started off really slow at first and now it's rapidly spreading.
Yeah. So you talked about timeline, right?
Yeah.
So when China tells you December, it could have very well been like October, right?
It's possible, yeah. If we look at, there's a lot of stuff on the media right now. Can we really trust what's coming out of China?
Or anywhere actually.
Anywhere? Yeah, exactly. And China could be saying the same thing to us. Could we really trust what's going on in those countries? But the fact of the matter is, we know that the virus originated from there and has spread across the world in a pretty fast way. If we compare this coronavirus to the previous coronaviruses that we've seen in the past, like SARS and MERS, things like that, it didn't spread as fast as it did with this new coronavirus. It didn't affect that many people. The kill rate, the case mortality rate was much higher with MERS. I think it was like at 35%, and with SARS, something hovering around 10%, depending on different location, but that's the overall case fatality rate, much higher. But it didn't spread as much. We were able to contain it.
Right.
MERS, I think total number of cases was just over 10,000 for the whole world.
Yeah, I think somebody explained it like that. I saw where, coronavirus has that thing where it's very contagious, right, and very fatal. It's not as fatal, or it's not as contagious as other viruses, right? But their levels are up there, right, which is what makes it different and dangerous.
Yeah, that's what makes it different and dangerous. And the concern right now with this new coronavirus is how fast it's spreading.
Right.
It's not killing as much as far as mortality ratio, but the number of people that's killed so far, we've surpassed 90,000. We're approaching 100,000 people who've unfortunately perished after being sick from the virus. So it's a pretty serious situation. But if looking at it, like the flu, it's behaving like the flu, where it's easily transmitted from person to person, and it's all over the world. 207 countries, and the number is climbing up. And the only few countries in the world that don't have coronavirus right now are all here in the Pacific. I think our isolation, being far away from the world, is what's helping protect us, or maybe because we just don't have enough test kits to test it yet. We've sent our samples, and we have more samples to be sent off. But we would like to test more. I've tasked our EpiNet team to go out there and find this virus here on the island.
Well, let's just say, like, come next week, there's still no positive. So what do? We do another 30 days of isolation for the territory? I mean, are we just going to try and,
Yeah, that's something that's being discussed right now. So what do we do now? I think tomorrow, everyone that came on that last flight from Hawaii,
it would have been 14 days?
It would have been 14 days. So our teams are still getting calls from people out in the public, in the community, who've traveled or who have been exposed to a traveler, who are then developing some symptoms. So we're out there and talking to them, taking swabs and asking them to isolate themselves or be quarantined. But what we also have to keep in mind is that we have the cold and flu that's going around right now. It's flu season, cold season up in the U.S. Of course, here in the Pacific, we don't really have a season, but we kind of mirror what they see because of all the traveling, yeah. So people will bring the virus here, the cold and flu virus, when it's being transmitted locally or in the community up in the U.S. So we have some of that going on here, and the symptoms of the coronavirus, it's very similar to cold and flu. It's very hard to distinguish. The only way we can really say we're going to swab you or not, if you've had that history of being a traveler from an affected area, or if we can find out if you've been exposed to somebody who traveled.
Well, now that we got that question out of the way.
That's a very loaded question, yeah.
So, man, epidemiologist, 1 year, right? Since you got your doctorate degree in there?
Very, very recently.
Is this what you envisioned? You thought you were just going to skate through this, huh?
Well, how I got to be go into this field, it's like, to be honest, I never, like I mentioned earlier, I never envisioned myself being in this position. If you're thinking back to my early days as a young teenager and young college student when we first met up in Hilo.
Yeah, but it's been a long journey,
it's
man.
Been a long
it's like
journey.
20 years, and now you're a doctor and stuff. So I don't know, what made you choose epidemiology?
I think it's for some reason I feel like I've been steered towards this direction by some force unbeknownst to me.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm serious, man. Like seriously, I came into Hilo. I had no idea what I was doing.
None of us did.
I majored in agriculture, and then I figured out that I was kind of good in math and some science, and then I changed to physics, and then I went to geography because I thought I could draw some maps. I was told by somebody you can make money being drawing maps for atlas books and stuff like that. Well, then I got bored real quickly and changed my major again and went into chemistry and other stuff. And then finally, for some time, I went into computer science. The thought of giving commands to a computer and it spits out, something for you. It was really something I wanted to do, so I went into that for a little bit. But then when I went up to the higher courses, I realized I didn't have the brain capacity to handle some of the stuff that was going on then. I hope
you have the brain capacity for this stuff.
Well, it's just that I didn't have enough training for computer science. I didn't have enough background. I think if I had stuck with it, I might have continued. But the problem is, I looked at my scholarship and what I would have had to do to become a computer scientist. I was like, it didn't work out. So
now
I
you're
settled
the
with.
Samoan Dr. Fauci.
Say again?
Now you're the Samoan Dr. Fauci. What's his
Dr.
name?
Fauci?
The guy, the coronavirus guy.
Oh, well, I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I hope that some of the skills that I've learned during my training and contribute to our response effort here. Yeah, but that's how it started. I ended up majoring in math and economics, and I think that's where my interest in health started.
Yeah.
Because in my econ class, the last part of it, I had to write a paper, and this paper was I was looking at the cost of healthcare here in American Samoa, and when I was doing the research, it says that we are the heaviest people in the world. We have the highest cases of diabetes, hypertension, and all that, and I realized that we can use my mathematical skills to look at patterns and things like that and see how or why we are in this situation compared to another cultural group that's similar to us.
Right.
What's making these differences? And
Well, I actually had to look up epidemiology. Yeah. Like when I heard you got your doctorate, I was like, what is that? And then, so it's non-communicable diseases too?
It's
not just, those contagious diseases.
Yeah, I still have a hard time spelling that word sometimes, but we're basically, you can say it as we're disease detectives. We study the...
Yeah, I just looked it up on Wikipedia, bro.
The distribution and, looking at ways to try to come up with causes of diseases. So not only infectious disease, we can look at chronic disease as well, even some behavioral aspects of diseases.
So a lot of time on my hands, I've been looking at other countries like Sweden. What's your take on them?
Sweden as far as?
What they're doing, because they're not really isolating, right? They still have open borders. They still have I know they shut down, I think, their high schools and their universities. Mm-hmm. And the only people they're really quarantining is the older people and people at risk. And they're catching a lot of shit for that. But then, for them it makes sense.
Yeah. Different countries, if you can see, have different approaches on how to prepare for this, or some of their community mitigation efforts, such as social
but which
distancing.
which one should we be modeling because of our, the people at risk here, with all the pre-existing conditions and the size of our population? Mm-hmm. Should we be looking like South Korea, what they're doing, or New Zealand? I know they're all different aspects.
Have you seen what Philippines is doing?
You know what? No. But I figure with that, with their president, it must be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. They're telling everybody to stay at home, and whoever does not obey their quarantine laws or isolation laws, the president has given the authority to the police to shoot them dead on the street. So there are some countries that have taken some really extreme measures, and there are some countries that are a little bit more lax compared. So you have this huge spectrum.
Well, I believe the Filipinos, because the way they handle their drug problem too is fucking bananas.
And
and I see videos of those guys in India whacking people with sticks and stuff.
Yeah. That's another crazy country too. I'm sure that with us here in our cultural, we won't be in that far left of the spectrum of being that extreme with our measures. We'll probably be somewhere in the middle, but that's something we've looked at all the different countries, what they have done in their response effort, and looking at how those responses, what's going on with the cases in their countries, and we try to take as much information as we can, and then that's how we build recommendations to the director and up to the governor to make their decisions. Keeping in mind that with our population, the data suggests that those that are older, above 60 and 65 years old, and those with pre-existing chronic conditions are those that are more likely to have more severe, you know, presentation of the symptoms and even die.
Right.
And so those are some of the things that we really have to consider. And, you know, I think knowing that information, our leaders are now leaning more towards the extreme side of preparing. We don't even have a case yet, and we've already shut down schools. We've shut down the bars, theaters, and things like that. And I think it's a really good move.
So what would you give it, like, what would you give as a grade as far as what we're doing? Because I see a lot of people, we're not really practicing social distancing. You know, I still see people on the buses that are, you know, sitting together, or people at the bus stops. You know, going into some of the bush stores, you know, have like 15 people in a small store.
Yeah, so those are all the things that we're really considering. If we restrict too much, and knowing that we don't have the virus yet, so that's what the data is suggesting, it might be, you know, it's a give or take. It's a hard decision to make. You know, how far left on this extreme spectrum of things that you're going to go to.
Right, because people are going to start getting tired of it, you know, fatigue from just, you know, all these rules and stuff.
Complacency will happen, you know. Yeah. Until we get that first case, things will change again.
Oh, once we get that first case, people are going to be fucking scared shitless, bro.
They'll be on lockdown. And, you know, that's why we're racing right now to test as much as we can and try to identify if we do have that case here. But so far, data suggests that there's nothing. And, you know, a colleague of mine, you know, brought up a really excellent question.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have a lot of these conversations and, you know, just bouncing some ideas back and forth.
Oh, fuck, I'd love to do something with E. He's a very interesting guy.
He's got a lot of thoughts.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, we know that the data is saying that some of the research that this virus probably came from bats and other marsupials.
I think fucking I heard this. This is fucking crazy.
And if it's true, is it possible that we've always had, you know, coronavirus circulating in our population, you know, because we've eaten bats in the past? That's not far fetched. I
heard he said something like that. That's fucking
really
crazy, bro.
Nobody's really looked into it, and so.
Well, I guess you gotta look into everything, huh?
It prompted some of us to look at the national and world data to see, you know, what races or people from which geographical location in the world are getting the disease. And so far, have you heard of a Samoan who's gotten the disease in different states?
I don't know, but I'm laughing because fucking he is crazy.
I know
like
there's one or two, but you know the numbers are so small. I would imagine like a place like Seattle, we would see a huge upsurge of Samoans.
Yeah, you would think with like Facebook, they'd be like, rest in peace, so and so, first Samoan COVID.
But you're not seeing that. Even in New Zealand and Australia, you're not seeing that.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty interesting, you know, concept, and I think it's
start taking some of our plasma and shit.
Yeah. Maybe we have the cure in our blood. We don't even know.
Yeah, fucking, I heard that from you. That shit made me laugh, bro.
But
I'm not laughing at you, E, bro. It's just fucking funny.
Before we go on, I just want to, you know, disclaimer. I'm here as, you know, not as a Department of Health representative.
Yeah.
And all the, you know, the comments I make are my own, and as a friend.
Yeah, right on. So, any sleep? Fuck, you must be up just thinking about the responsibility of being the man.
Well, there's a lot of people that are involved. I wouldn't say I'm the man, but I'm surely part of the collective group. The team that's there's a lot of people involved in this, and that's a good thing. You know, it's always good to have many heads coming in to funnel the information up to a few more heads that then make the decision. But we have to be careful because, you know, like they say, too many spoons in the pot spoils the broth.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I heard that before.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you learned so far that they didn't teach you in school?
Oh, every day.
Every day.
It's every day. You know, as far as the technical part, the modeling, using data to present, you know, that's what we can do here. But when it comes to working with people, looking at the bureaucracy of things, trying to be diplomatic. You're working interagency and among departments and things like that. There's a lot of politics involved. Those are the type of things that is not taught at school.
Yeah.
And it's a way that I'm realizing learning about myself every day. The personality that's involved. It's required, and to be able to work together as a group. So yeah, can't say too much about that. It's still a learning in progress. Yeah. My two years in the Department of Health. Yeah.
Well, they gave me the 5 minutes like over 5 minutes ago. So, man, I hope as soon as we get our act together, this is our first time doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and see us, man.
Yeah, no problem. This is great. This is a great platform. I've never actually been in a podcast before.
Fuck, I've never done a podcast before.
Really? This is, yeah.
I don't even know if we can call it a podcast.
Mm.
Is it? We can?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll just have to do this again. Let me get a few more under my belts, and
Sure.
hopefully next time do it proper. We have something to drink, and some poo-poos or something. Anytime for you, my man. Yeah. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. Just time and place, and I'll be there. I might run a little bit late, but
Well, you got shit to do.
yeah,
I have nothing to do, bro.
It is supposed to be my week off, but here I am already 4 meetings in.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
I don't know about big bucks. It's the work alone is something that keeps us going. It's for some reason there's an excitement behind all of this. You go to school and you get trained to deal with certain diseases, and it is an EPI's dream to be involved in some kind of outbreak, or and here
You
we
guys
are.
name EPIs.
Say again?
The EPIs.
The EPIs, epidemiologists.
Yeah.
So they call us.
I thought we had another one. What's his name?
We have one that's currently working with us right now, Mata'u Fai'ai.
No, I had another name.
Yeah, she's a graduate from George Washington
Did she go to Leone?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's
I
a Leone
remember.
grad. She's a Leone grad, and then she went on to Chaminade for her bachelor's, and then George Washington for her master's. And yeah, what an excellent help to have.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just myself and Scott Onissi.
Yeah, that's the name
Yeah.
I heard.
But
I don't know, but yeah, I heard.
Scott had recently moved to Fiji. He's there now, and yeah, awaiting for his return. But
He's missing all the fun right now.
He's missing the. I'm sure he's probably busy in Fiji right now. Fiji's got some cases, and
Yeah.
you see those numbers climbing. So I'm sure they're pretty busy out there too.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll end it here. I know you're a busy guy. Yeah.
We good?
Good.
All right.
Good.